All right, this is 13th Devotee with another How I Undecember video. And in this series of videos, we're going to be unraveling damage amplification. So at its core, Undecember is a game in which you get them before they get you. My purpose is really to inform players on how to dramatically increase damage output for physical builds. I specifically have this for physical builds, although you could use it for other things, but as information, but specifically for physical builds. And we're going to be starting with the obvious to not so obvious locations. So that being said, let's rock. Jewels and jewel score. Now, in the game, there are items called jewels. There are star and black jewels specifically, and these jewels will actually have damage amplification available. Now you need to go ahead and polish them, and I'll show you where to do that. But you obtain them primarily through mines, events, dungeons, and the auction house. And that's primarily where you get these jewels specifically. Now, for example, a black star jewel or a black jewel, a maximum I've ever seen is 6%. Damage amplification. A star jewel, the maximum I've ever seen was 12.7 in the auction house. Never personally polished one myself to that level, but that's the maximum I've ever seen for that particular jewel. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is let me go ahead and show you the location. So once again, you go to the mine in order to get them. I'm not going to show you the actual mine hunting for them, but basically they'll drop from the mines. When you go over to the jewel over in Saludo, the jewel table, go ahead and select this here. Let's go ahead and start with the black jewel. So once you select the black jewel, you'll have an option to refine the jewel itself. Now you need the item called polishing stones. Those you can get through disassembling the actual jewels that you don't want, and you grab them from there. Sometimes they come in through events. I believe you could buy some on the auction house as well, but primarily you need those in order to refine the jewels themselves. Um, Once you refine it, and let's say, for example, you're targeting this specifically, damage amplification, you want to make sure you select the stage 3 if you are lucky enough to get the stage 3. Um, it will show you a range percentage. So 2.1 is the base, the bottom, and 3.4 is the highest. Anything close to that number, 3.4, the better, and that'll give you the most opportunity to get to that 6 damage amplification goal. Now, as it increases, you'll get a 0.3% damage amplification for each successful sculpting. So let's say, for example, if you have, I had to make sure, you got 9 chances to sculpt, and that's zero point 0.3 times 9. So that's what, roughly 2.7, additional 2.7, I believe. So when you look at the number once again, 3.4 plus 2.7 would basically give you, I believe 6.1 really would be the maximum, but that's potentially the best and highest you can get. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the star jewel, which is this guy right here. The star jewel is a little bit more special. It's a little more rare. I believe it drops also in the mines, but they're a little bit harder to get. I believe they come from the final boss in the mines themselves. So when you're actually looking for these star jewels, there are specifically particular names or jewel options that you want to look for. Now, a quick disclaimer, before you start polishing or purchasing these stones, look at your main skill tag and make sure these um, jewel options will actually apply. So what I mean by that, let me just back up real quick here. For example, if I look at my skill and I have fissure, right? So if I look at fissure, it'll say attack, melee, area effect, strike, physical, and shadow. Now, if there's any damage amplification that pertains to attack melee, area effect, strike, physical, and shadow, then those would actually be applicable to my main skill. For example, I have another skill here called strike, physical, duration, that has attack, strike, physical, duration, and movement. Melee damage amplification wouldn't necessarily apply to this particular skill. In turn, area damage wouldn't apply to the skill. Uh, Projectile damage amplification wouldn't apply to the skill. So keep that in mind. It does pertain to that. There are also areas, for example, um, aside from damage amplification, these skills also provide secondary benefits as well, which I'll show you here in a moment. So let's go and do this here. I'm going to go ahead and select the little I button here. So the dual options that provide damage amplification, starting from here, we'll get into the first one is Annihilation. So let me go ahead and see if I can show that to you real quick. I generally keep one jewel unrefined and for both of them, just so I can take a look at it. So I would recommend just keeping one and don't touch it, so that way you can actually look at and kind of plan ahead. So we have Annihilation. So this one provides a base of highest level of 7.3 area damage amplification, and a zero point 0.6 each time you are successful with your sculpting. In addition, this one also provides area effect. So for example, my fissure uses area effect. This would be beneficial to me, so I particularly use this one myself. The next one is Explosive Instinct, which I don't recommend at all. It particularly only works when you use the actual attack enhanced skill rune, but depending on your cooldown and how often you use it, it may not be really beneficial, and it's only good for 3 seconds. So, and not really much of a difference if you just use compared to the other one. You don't necessarily get more amplification. So let's say Annihilation, you get zero point 0.6, and then Explosive Instinct, you also get zero point 0.6, but there's other ones that will consistently be there and not be dependent on attack enhanced skill rune. So I don't necessarily like this one, but I'm just pointing out there. The next one is going to be Sweep. If you do have, let's say, for example, skill rune of Whirlwind, weapon range would be beneficial for you. So this one gives you a strike damage amplification, and this one does the same stats, same range of 7.3, and then a 0.6 as well, and you get that weapon range. Okay, the next one is going to be, I believe, let's get here, Raging Particles. This one is a physical damage amplification skill room. Same situation, goes up to 7.3, but this one also, and the same upgrade per sculpting, but you also get a 0.2 chance to ignore enemy armor. That's beneficial if you have a physical build, especially if you're trying to maximize the amount of damage you're doing. Every little bit helps, but the more you're ignoring the enemy armor, it helps out when you're trying to increase the damage output. The next one is going to be Fighting Spirit. This one is a melee damage amp, but also provides HP percentage. So percentage, not just the base. There's another one that provides base, but this one is specifically for HP percentage. And the one that provides the base earlier was the Explosive Instinct. So if you look at there, that again is another reason it's not really that great. It provides HP, but I would prefer to go with the other one. Percentage is a little bit better. Okay, so getting back to it here, so we're at Raging Particles, and then we went over here to Fighting Spirit, and we're going over here to the next one is Fang. Now Fang particularly is great for projectile damage amplification. So if you're a physical build, but you're a projectile, sorry, you're doing a projectile instead of a melee skill, this would pertain more to you. It's just the other version compared to, I believe, the Fighting Spirit. Next one is going to be Viper. So if you particularly, it's the same situation for the damage amp, but this particularly one is for area damage. So if you have area of effect, it actually really helps you out. So I would take a look at Viper. But this also provides mana. So if you struggle with mana issues, this is also helpful. So it has a test secondary effect, which is helpful for that particular purpose. And I believe the last one should be coming up here, Sprouting Energy. I also use this one myself because it does provide HP percentage as you get in higher levels. Sometimes the difference after all the debuffs is whether or not you have enough HP to survive the attacks that you get. So in addition to the jewels, you need to make sure you have equipment that you can actually apply those jewels to. So for example, I have a ring that actually has 3 slots. So I can do a star jewel, a white jewel, and a black jewel. Now, if you go over to the armor, you can only apply 2 slots. So, for example, this one, it's definitely one I want to replace, but you only get 2 options, I believe, and that is going to be really the black jewel and then one other jewel. Usually, people tend to go with white or red, and there's different reasons for that. But particularly, the star jewel can only go in the rings, the belt, the necklace, and of course your weapon. I believe the the one-handed ones can also take a star jewel as well with a black, but I'll have to take a look at that a little bit further. But normally, two-handed weapons should also have the ability to get a 3 rune slots. Let me actually show you an example. These weapons have a star black and white. So this particular base does have a star black and white. That particular one's a unique, so it's a little bit harder to get a 3 star or 3 jewels on those. But a base that can be upgraded to ancient will have the ability to possibly get a 3 stars, or sorry, 3 jewels on there. If you're going to invest in these jewels, make sure you invest in endgame tier 35 gear. So you want to be a little more particular about that because more than likely, if you're starting out, you're going to eventually replace this gear, and jewels can be a sinkhole with a lot of your resources. So if you're going to replace it out eventually, then don't really focus on getting that 6% damage amplification stone to go on a gear that you eventually is going to sit in your storage or get tossed out at some point. So what I would probably focus on, especially in lower levels in the start, try to target like a 3 or 4% if you can. Um, I would be okay with that. Even and then as you move up in your equipment tiers, start looking at the 5 or 6%. For star jewels, you could probably try to target anything like 7, 9, if not below. As you get into end game, maybe from 9 to 12, if you can help it, would be the areas I would probably start taking a look at. And then, so essentially, accessories can mount you about 18% damage amplification, roughly. Two-handed weapons could roughly get you 18%, and if you take the one-handed weapons, there's a possibility to get 18, but I have a feeling it should be the same. And then armor, if you're just looking at the black jewels, it'll be around 6% for each one. Let me go ahead and show you real quick how to partially transfer the jewels over so that way, or the jewel slots, so that way you can actually upgrade your jewels and be able to apply the ones that you want. Go over here to Croco, and you want to make sure, for example, let's take a look at this one here. This one only has a red jewel slot. So I first register this. I want to make sure, one, it's a rare jewel. I mean, it's a rare grade. You want to make sure also the transferring equipment that it's coming from is also 170. So you want to make sure the levels match. Either the recipient has to be equal, um, and you want to make sure that's correct. And then in addition to that, you have to make sure these question marks are gone. So you want to make sure these options are cleared or filled. So we're going to go ahead and select the snake. Then go ahead and select this rare imbue essence to add more of those options. Now you got 6. So this one now could be a recipient of the jewel slots. And then so I'm going to show you some of these bases. So here's one. So I'm going to go ahead and go from normal, magic, and then we're going to go ahead and go to rare, and then we're going to go ahead and add those 2 slots. Okay. So make sure the item is not protected. You want to go ahead and make sure that's unclicked. Then we're going to head over here to the alchemy desk. I'm going to go ahead and select the gear partial transfer. So this particular one is a ring, so you're selecting accessory. This one here, once again, has the white star black. And then we're selecting the recipient, which is going to be the esteemed ancient ring, only has a red star jewel. This is going to be the end result. It's going to have white star black. Keep in mind, non-tradable item will become tradable if you do this process. So I'm going to go ahead and select craft. And then here we go, completed. I'm going to select OK. Here's your ring. Let's go ahead and move out of here. So now I have a ring that now has the white star black jewel available for me to add those jewels to it. Once you go ahead and add your jewels, next to it you'll have some points. Now those points pertain to this area here, which is called jewel score. Now as you move up in the jewel score, you get additional effects. So for example, at 500, you will get a, let's pull this up here, 2% damage amp. Now, if you go up to 1300, you will get 2% damage amp. And if you happen to max it out, get to 2000 points, it's 3% damage amplification. Really, to get to this level, you really got to have at least 3 jewels in your accessories. Around 3 jewels, say, in your weapon if you can. If you have like a secondary, like for example, one is one-handed and you have like the offhand weapon, then that can help you out as well. And then here you at least have to have, say, 2 jewels for each one. If you go starting with the black jewel and then either the red or the white, that will try to help you out to get to that number. So with that being said, this is how I Undecember, and this is Unraveling Damage Amplification, Jewels, and Jewel Score. Thank you.